Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're going to be covering the Kentucky legislature. They're still at it, so we're still at it. We got a special treat for you, a dramatic reenactment of some very uncivil treatment of a civil servant by the my way or the highway GOP supermajority. Surprise, surprise, surprise. They got a lot of power and they're jerks. We're going to highlight a new effort to ban drag shows by lumping them in with adult businesses and a bad bill that's moving forward as we speak. And then we're going to close out with our call to action. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? I know you are, because you, like us, are watching these bad bills pile up in the Kentucky House and Senate. And, you know, it's inescapable that we have got to do better politically to get better electoral outcomes so we can get better bills through our legislature. We really hope you'll support our efforts to do just that, to win better electoral outcomes. Make a contribution tonight to support those efforts. Act blue to turn Kentucky purple. $5, $50, $500. It all adds up. It's all welcome, and none of it is tax deductible. Sorry. But let's first check in with our co-host before we get into the stories. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what are you protesting today. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Chilesburg, which is, a lovely spot in Lexington. If you are on your way out of town, it's going to be the last subdivision on the left as you head towards Madison County. Let's see. My sign says today, it is in fact a shirt. It is my shirt. I've shown this one in the past. There is no planet B because you know what, folks? We have got to do better by our environment. I was inspired. I was in DC last week. We talked about a lot of different amazing programs the Biden administration has unleashed on climate change, huge investments to do clean energy, clean vehicles. There's a big announcement today about new standards for cleaner vehicles, so more EVs will be on the road. Really exciting, especially if you like to drive fast cars. EVs are fast, they are quiet, they are responsive, and Biden administration is going all in on those and solar and lots of other cool clean energy projects. So no planet B. Also, I think our governor should say climate change every once in a while and say it like it's a problem, because he doesn't tend to do it. And we got a bunch of, I know why he doesn't, got a bunch of reactionary, horrible coal defenders in the legislature. We talked about that last week with our friend Lane Boldman. If you missed that, go back and watch it. That bill is moving, so that's a really important one. I think I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm going to check my notes and I'll come back maybe during our call to action. But yeah, so let's go ahead and check in with our co-host, Doug Price. You there?
Yes, I am. I'm coming to you from Harrison County, Kentucky. Our county seat is Cynthiana, and we just love Cynthiana. It's a very small, it has a small hometown feel, but a lot of good people. I do have a sign today, and you'll learn more about this in one of the stories once we get into that. But my sign reads, "Listen up. Hey, Kentucky legislators, read the Kentucky Constitution."
All right. I'm excited to hear about that, because I know that reading is a strength of theirs. I'm sure they read it. I'm sure they love it, because they always want to amend it. They always want to make it longer, add more things, or take things away. All right, so we might have another host at some point, but we'll just need to skip their protest sign, I suppose. All right, so let's jump into news of the week and a really important story that Doug is going to cover. Doug, what do you got for us?
Happy to. Do you want to play a part, or you want me to just go with it?
No, yeah, we're definitely. I'll play a part.
That sounds great. I want to talk a little bit about decorum and the lack thereof by an increasing number of legislators. I was watching the legislative committee meeting related to House Bill 517 that makes changes to the processes of the Legislative Ethics Commission. The players. The executive director, Laura Hendricks, was testifying along with the commission's general counsel. This is important. Both identified themselves as appearing in their capacity. We put a video of the meeting in the chat, and separate from this, I sent the video to Speaker Osborne to complain about Kevin Bratcher, who is a representative from the 29th district and a member of the committee. I was complaining about Bratcher's lack of decorum. You can start watching at the 13.22 minute mark. This is a compilation of the back and forth that occurred during the meeting. Bratcher, who are you advocating for today? Who are you working for today?
I'm the executive director of the Legislative Ethics Commission, and as with any bill affecting the commission, we always come in and let you know how this would change our law, and of course you all are the policy makers.
That's right, we're the policy makers, and I don't understand who you're standing for right now. Are you a citizen of Kentucky? Is it your position? Is it the board that you work for? Is it the chairman? Who are you working for?
Well, as the chairman asked us to look at this bill and see if it would have any effects on the code as we have it right now, and to give our views on that. And despite my accent, I am very much a citizen of our Commonwealth, sir.
What are your views? Are that you don't like the bill, right?
Well, I think that it has some issues, as I said, but I feel like you all, as policymakers, would seem like it would be helpful to know what the past has been with respect to these provisions, and then what it may do in the future.
Are you speaking for the entire board there? Did they tell you to come here today?
Oh, actually, as I said, normally the commission process would be to put out their ideas for changes to the code, and actually we always send those to all the legislatures, right? Though through the LRC, since we weren't made aware of the fact that this bill was going to come up until today. And graciously, they also let us know about this committee sub and gave us that.
So you're not speaking for the entire bill?
Do you want me to finish?
Yeah, I want you to answer yes or no. Are you speaking for the entire? At this point, the committee chair interjected. Please give her time to finish her statement.
So they will have a meeting on Monday, and at that time they may vote to say, well, yeah, we support it or we don't. The usual process would be for us to come in as staff and just point out if there are issues with the bill.
I know that you're a great public employee, and my only question is, why are you here fighting this on your own without your commission support? And are you willing to get behind this bill? Can you follow this bill if it passes?
Sure, and that's what I think I said. And I apologize if I didn't say it as strongly as I should have. You all make the policy. I am merely pointing out the policy or the law could change our process and that would lengthen it somehow again.
And the
and scene.
It talked. It kept going a little bit after that, and I felt the need to follow up with Representative Bratcher. And here is this email discussion. Representative Bratcher, I watched the above meeting in regards to discussion on a bill that makes changes to the law related to the Legislative Ethics Commission. Perhaps you were tired or having a bad day, but I think it was unfortunate and uncalled for you to confront the executive director of the Legislative Ethics Commission, a public servant doing her job. She appeared on behalf of the commission to provide information on a bill that affects current legislation. According to what I heard, the commission was only given info on the bill either that day or less than a day ago. That is unfortunate. Legislators should encourage people to openly discuss legislation without tossing accusations. Bratcher did respond. Here's his response. She should not be speaking for or against policy without her full board sanction. It's not her role to independently speak for or against legislation unless she is doing it as a spokesman for the board or as a single voice Kentucky citizen. And if that was the case, then she should have stated as such. I replied to him, it was obvious to me that she was speaking on behalf of her employer. She stated she had talked to the board chair, which is an indication that her comments were within her purview to make. It was obvious to me that she was raising concerns for consideration by the committee. She was raising concerns, not advocating. And as I stated in the very beginning, she identified herself to the committee as the executive director, and she had the commission's attorney there also. Perhaps this would have played out better if the bill sponsor had asked for input prior to presenting the bill. Less than 1 day is not a sufficient time frame to seek input. To me, all of this provides indication that the Republican-controlled legislature has adopted a my way or the highway attitude, and voters need to remember this in November. And by the way, Aaron, you did a remarkable job. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for teeing it up, and apologies to Mrs. Hendricks. So, Laura Hendricks is the executive director of the Legislative Ethics Committee, a fine civil servant who I would concur should have been treated far more civilly by Representative Bratcher, who seems like a big crybaby.
Agreed.
All right, so I think we have another co-host who has joined us. It looks like Kimberly. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. When you can buy something for $1.3 million today and close on it, you're having a fantastic day.
What the hell does that mean?
That means that my daughter just bought an apartment building. Ooh. And she is going to make sure that everyone that lives there, it'll be beautiful, new, redone, and she will take Section 8.
Nice.
Cool.
Despite the jackasses in Frankfurt doing their best to stop landlords from having to take it. Good that she's doing the right thing. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations to your daughter. We're, we hear about her from time to time on the show, off the show. We're big fans. Sounds exciting. I'm glad that so is she done serving her country? Is her time up, or she's just starting to?
No, she still has 3 more years before retirement. So mom's here in Louisville, Kentucky is helping her out.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Well, so let's just check in. We've got a legislative update. We just heard about some poor behavior in the legislature. I don't know, Kimberly, if you heard our amazing acting, but you're going to need to definitely watch the replay if you missed it. And Connor, thank you for the kind comment in the comments. So if you want to check yourself before Frankfurt wrecks us all, we have our worst bills of KYGA 24. It's live. It's being updated twice a week-ish by the only Mr. Doug Price is right. So that link, we got a short link for you to go ahead and click on if you want to see what's going on. I think Doug, you updated today. What's going on with the bills? What's up? What's happening right now?
There's really not much going on until March the 21st. They're having committee meetings, but they don't have any House and Senate. They don't have any chamber meetings.
Yeah, so it's not an actual day of the legislature, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But depending on when you're listening to this, if you're listening to the podcast and you're listening to it in the morning, it might be today, right? So they might be in session, but they're going in session on the 21st of March for day number. I don't remember what day it is.
Yeah, I looked that up, but I forgot to write it down. So there is that. There's
more days, not as many as there used to be, but more than I wish they had.
No, April 15th is when they have to leave. So, but there are legislative days during there, and then there are veto days and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they've got their schedule such that, April 15th is sine die, right? So they're going to take some time off so that all their the governors, the government will be forced to act on all their bills, and then they can come in and overturn any that he vetoed, or maybe they'll have a change of heart on some, but likely they won't. But you can keep an eye on the tracker. It's a great resource. Doug does I think important work updating some of the worst bills there. But They're always surprising us with new ones. Although I guess can they even introduce any new legislation at this point? Now they've just used subs.
I think what they've done this year and in the past, they have written several what are called mule bills. They're basically assigned a number, and there's nothing there. And then what they'll do, they'll roll legislation that's not moving, or legislation that they want to make changes to, and then put things in there that nobody was expecting, nobody was looking for, and then everybody has to scramble and try to, I don't know, rally the troops, depending on what kind of troops need to be rallied. So there are several mule bills out there.
Also, I think also known as shell bills, right? So, but yeah, so yeah, the process by which they get what they want to do done. It's not always pretty, but it's all pretty bad. Anything you want to like highlight specifically, though? You think is queued up for movement in the tracker?
I don't know. I can talk a little bit about the constitutional amendments if you'd like me to.
Yeah. So it seems like the big one got done, right? So Amendment 2, or House Bill 2, whatever it was, the one to put vouchers and charter schools on the ballot to try to make them constitutional, because the state Supreme Court has been very clear that it's not constitutional to spend public dollars on non-public schools, but the legislature is bound and determined to privatize education and to take tax dollars away from schools. So that's going to be coming up. That's, I think, the one that we know will be on the ballot at this point, right?
Yeah, we know that it will be on the ballot, but at this point, we don't really know the location on the ballot. As I understand it, the bill has completely passed, but it has not been sent to the Kentucky Secretary of State, who then would arrange for it to be on the ballot. I don't know why it hasn't been sent. I have a kind of an idea. I have heard that there's another bill that is going through the processes, SB 143, and it's, in my opinion, it's a play to the base bill that essentially says non-citizens cannot vote in any election. Initially, I thought this was being considered in case there was a municipality that wanted to allow everyone to vote on local matters that affects the locality. For example, an effort in Lexington or Louisville. Apparently, our Constitution does not specifically disallow non-citizens from voting. So there's a thought out there that they want to pass this constitutional amendment and do whatever they have to arrange to have that one on the ballot first, because when people see a constitutional amendment that says non-citizens can't vote, they're going to say, well, yeah, they don't need to vote. They need to register to vote. And then perhaps they'll answer yes to that one, along with, well, maybe I just need to answer yes to House Bill 2 that authorizes the General Assembly to pass new laws, as Aaron has said, allowing public dollars to go to private schools, including church or for-profit schools. So House Bill 2 is still sitting there. SB 143 has not been completely passed yet. I reached out to Secretary Adams' office to inquire on how the items are placed. Does it depend on the final passage date or when an item is received? I haven't gotten a reply back, but I think that'll be interesting to see the placement of of those two bills. And I would point out there are a total of 24 constitutional amendments that are, most of them are just sitting there not doing anything. But it looks like at least two are going to be passed, and will be on the ballot in November.
All right. So we will have our chance to weigh in on some of these legislative items. Kimberly, anything that jumps out at you? Anything you've been watching in the legislature?
Well, the one thing that we had kind of talked about, not having to consider low income vouchers for housing. How can they do that? What is that for? Then also in Frankfurt, because Louisville and Lexington, we basically have local laws saying that we will consider vouchers and things of this nature for low income housing. In Frankfurt, the GOP is saying that we are the ones that have made this problem for ourselves. I don't understand how that can be, but thank God for the people that do accept Section 8 and other low income vouchers from the government. Because everyone that's on Section 8 is not a terrible person, is not an unclean person, or a person that would tear up or vandalize someone else's property. It has been stated that at least 79% of the tenants are very, very good tenants. So I'm really on that one right now. And the other things, it's just like, what do we expect? This is who they are. When people show you who they are the first time, believe them.
Yeah, we've had session after session of them showing who they are for sure. Yeah, so that House Bill 18, which was the one that would force landlords to not discriminate against sources of income, and despite local ordinances to the contrary. So that was one that passed pretty quickly. The governor vetoed it immediately. They then, in the next second overrode his veto, basically, right? They were so committed to the idea of discrimination that they did that immediately. So it's disappointing for sure. Glad that your daughter's not going down that road and is ignoring their efforts, their best efforts. Okay. So I gonna do a story that I was hoping that there wasn't going to be a lot of anti-LGBT legislation this session, and that they were going to leave it with the horrific SB 150 from last session, which was the omnibus hate bill that did anti-trans stuff, did anti kind of outing, bathrooms, like just horrible. I thought it'd be like, well, they've done it all. What else can they do? Well, if you remember last year, the anti-drag stuff kind of dodged a bullet. They really wanted to do it, and there was a lot of kind of action at the end to try to get where the Republican GOP, the GOP Republican supermajority tried really hard to get their anti-drag bill across the finish line. It didn't happen. Well, now it's back, right? So this is actually a bill by Senator Lindsay Titchener, who is also championing efforts to get cursive back in schools, fighting the big important fights, this one. But I want to highlight Chris Fugate's comments when the bill was taken up this week by the House Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection Committee. It voted to approve SB 147. This comes to us from the Kentucky Lantern. Chris Fugate, Representative Chris Fugate, he's from Chavies, obviously a Republican, said the bill, which he voted for, is not about hating gay people at all. Freedom is not the ability to do what we want to do, he said. If that were true, then we would let people kill people who they think have the right to kill people. Fugate also said that that's a pretty important, that freedom's not about everything. You don't get to be free to do everything. You don't get to kill people. You get to have your gun. Sure, everyone's got freedom to have a gun, but, they don't get to kill people and they don't get to dress as women. He said a young man recently came into his church because, of course, he's a good, God-fearing Christian, came into his church dressed as a young lady, and his heart breaks for him. Society has become a society that causes confusion, Fugate said. Somewhere along the line, somebody's abused that young man, no doubt. Right, because all trans folks have been abused. That's why they're trans. He continued, somebody has added to his confusion. And these drag queen shows, all this garbage, Fugate said before switching gears to address someone shaking their head at him. You can shake your head at me. You don't intimidate me. You don't scare me. The truth's the truth. And then House Democratic Whip Rachel Roberts, who is awesome, said Fugate's words sent me so back on my heels with the example that his heart broke for someone because they were dressed differently. I wonder if your heart would break if I had shown up wearing a tie today, asked Roberts, who voted against the bill and called it mean. I wonder if your heart breaks because I have short hair. And then Representative Stephanie Dietz, who is from a less conservative district, said that she believes the vulgarity that is in some of those parades are really vulgar. So it's important that we pass laws to stop the parades that are vulgar. She says that's from outside of Kentucky, though, not from her LGBTQ plus community and her constituency, because she has a real diverse district and she wants to be sensitive, said Dietz. She, of course, voted for the bill because she's a Republican. I feel differently than some of my colleagues. I have a niece that is gay. I have people that live in my neighborhood that are gay. But I have a little bit different perspective of how I view that population. I don't share the same sentiments that someone's sick or that we need to change them. But Fugate and Dietz, what's interesting about them, they have a commonality beyond the fact that they're Republicans and they voted for this horrific bill, which lumps, drag shows into adult-oriented businesses. They both represent districts that voted for Andy Beshear last November. They both will be on the ballot this November, along with the entire House. They will be facing off against Democrats Aaron Curran and Zach Hall, respectively. So that is what I want to point out about this stupid bill that's being passed by this stupid GOP supermajority and these stupid comments from Representative Fugate and Representative Dietz. If you don't want to hear these stupid comments, if you don't want them advancing these stupid bills, then you probably need to do something about it and maybe take a look at Aaron Curran's campaign and Zach Hall's campaign. And if you want to look at all the different races that we think are going to be competitive or potentially competitive, you should keep an eye on our list. So we can put that in the chat so you can take a look at it. This is, again, great work by Doug and others to put together the information about which House districts were won by Andy, by how much, which of them have, actual competitors running against some of these Republican folks who currently hold the seat. So really important that we keep an eye on that stuff and we fight the fights that we can win or can potentially win. So I hope everyone pays attention and gets involved because we've only got, we got some time between now and November, but not as much as we would like to think. So that's me. Doug, what do you got on this one?
I happen to be watching that debate on that bill, and it's the smugness on some of these Republican legislators, and I'll identify Titchener as one of those. It's like, it don't stink, man. I'm good. It just drives me crazy. I find myself hurling expletives at this computer screen, which I know does nothing, but it lets off some steam.
Doug has got a potty mouth. Breaking news. Doug Price has a potty mouth. I'm glad you don't show it on the show.
So
family-friendly show here.
So anyway, here's a comment I have. Our legislature is trending more religious-based governance, which is bad for the Commonwealth. We must vote to stem this tide. Committees must not allow preaching from the pulpit of the legislative committee rooms. That's what this guy was doing. He was preaching. He's a preacher. That's what preachers do. They preach. But they should be talking about legislation. I looked this up. Here's what our Constitution states about religion. In Section 5, right of religious freedom, no preference shall ever be given by law to any religious sect, society, or denomination, nor to any particular creed, mode of worship, or system of ecclesiastical polity, nor shall any person be compelled to attend any place of worship, to contribute to the erection or maintenance of any such place, or to the salary or support of any minister of religion, nor shall any man be compelled to send his child to any school to which he may be conscientiously opposed, and the civil rights, privileges, or capacities of no person shall be taken away. Privileges, capacities of no person shall be taken away, or in any wise diminished or enlarged, or account on his belief or disbelief of any religious tenet, dogma, or teaching. No human authority shall in any case whatever control or interfere with the rights of conscience. I'm dropping the mic on that. They need to read that before they start preaching from the pulpit in a legislative meeting.
Well, maybe they're just going over because our forefathers of this country, when they would do State of the Union addresses, things of this nature, our presidents at that time, they were actual sermons at the State of the Union address. So they're living in the past because that was permissible back then. And so a lot of people do that around the country. Doesn't make it right. However, I think that just stick to the subjects at hand, and let's get something done for the people of Kentucky. That is just my thoughts about it. I think we are always fighting, 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 and I think all of us feel a little weary from all the fighting we have to do, and now we have to fight this too. It's just too much, and maybe that's the whole premise of it, to wear us down, those that speak and stand for the right thing. But maybe they should keep the preaching till 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, so many of them. So many of these guys are preachers, right? Like literally, it's amazing how many of them are like part-time preachers. It's like the number one apparently career path to the legislature is to be a preacher. Give me a break. I think I'm not against folks with religious background being involved with politics. Give me Senator Warnock over, I don't know if Mitch McConnell's ever stepped into a church. I kind of feel like he would probably burst into flames if he did. But I'll take Warnock over McConnell any day of the week, and twice on Sundays, because that's what we're talking about. So, but it's like, know what you're talking about and know where your kind of faith leads you. That's fine. Talk about your faith. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Democrats talking about their faith. I think that's fine. But I think the conservative right-wing view that's the only faith that matters. Their view of the Bible is the only correct. Their like stupid and literal view of the Bible, which give me a break. I'm sorry, but the fact that we have a creation museum in the state of Kentucky is an embarrassment, people. These were stories. They weren't it's not a science book, you dummies. Anyway, and let's all just recall that, his heart was breaking because somebody trans walked into his church. Let's remember all the stuff Jesus said about the gay people who very much were around in that society. And it was, nothing. He said nothing about them. So,
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Yeah.
Now, this anti-drag bills and all this kind of stuff. So now, are we saying that we can't have a Mrs. Doubtfire? That's against the law. Big Mama's house is against the law. I mean, what are they actually saying? I know Cat Williams doesn't really particularly care for men in skirts, but what does this mean? You can't do a play at Actors Theater and a man dresses a woman for the play, or what does this mean?
Yeah, it's going to be up to lawyers to decide, because it's a horribly written bill and it's a bad idea, because that's what they excel at the GOP side of the aisle. And it's gonna, have a chilling effect on small businesses, in theaters that like hosted gay brunches or gay drag performances, because no one wants to be sued and it's just it's stupid. It's just more stupidity.
A lot of men that do drag, there's a lot of them that are heterosexual. I hope that people do understand that every man that does drag, maybe for a living or a part-time occupation, is not always gay. I just want to put that out there so people can know that every last one of them are not gay all the time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion about drag shows from that side of the aisle. And again, just as Susan's commenting in the or pointing out in the comments, high schools often have drag competitions at pep rallies. So maybe now they're going to need to shut down pep rallies or shut down high schools for the kids.
It's happening in JCPS at Jefferson County Public School System. Why not everywhere, right?
No doubt. All right. So I think, were those the stories we wanted to cover? Like I want to note, we do not have a guest tonight. I struck out a couple of times, tried to get a legislator on, but it was there was an email shutdown in the Capitol. So if you were trying to send emails to your lawmakers on Monday or Tuesday, they probably didn't go through, and you might need to try again because there was apparently some issues. But yeah, so we got a call to action to do. That's for sure. Really important. There's a couple bills. Again, if you have not called the legislative comment line this session, what are you waiting for? Like, these are the nicest humans. They're going to make sure they understand your message and what bill you're talking about, and they take down your name and figure out if who you don't have to know who your lawmaker is. They will tell you who your lawmaker is. They'll ask you, do you want to talk to your senator? Or do you want to cut your House your representative? They'll tell you who those people are. So it's like educational. It's informative. It's the good thing to do to keep our civil society functioning. And don't let these guys get away with these horrible, horrible bills. So let's put in a couple calls. Since we don't have a guest, we're going to ask you to make 2 phone calls tomorrow. Doug, what's your first one?
The action alert that we have is from the League of Women Voters of Kentucky related to Senate Bill 6. This is the one that's referred to the Anti DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bill. It basically is, there was one UK student who is white who felt like she was discriminated against. And that was the impetus behind this bill that is going to say public colleges, universities in Kentucky cannot have DEI programs. So the League of Women Voters is asking everyone to call that 1-800-372-7181. The lines are actually open Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. So you can call right now if you want and ask all Senate members to vote no on SB 6. And it's toll free. You talk to those people; they're the nicest people. They're so accommodating, and I know they've got to get. I know they get a lot of calls, and they do an outstanding job. Just call and thank them for their service after you talk to them.
Yeah, do it. They're great folks. Put in a phone call. All right, so call. You can do it. Even if you're watching this live, you can do it right now. The lines are open until 9 o'clock. Sounds like we're encouraging people to, do a telethon. It will not cost you anything. This is free. It's a 1-800 number. So even if you're a weird person that doesn't have a cell phone, there's no long distance call cost for you to call those fine folks. So yeah, call and urge your Senate to vote no on SB 6. Also, I want you to call about SB 349. So remember, I referred to at the top of the show the fact that we need to move our power plants away from coal. I know that's like sacrosanct here in Kentucky that, coal is king. You know who agrees with me that we probably want to shut down some of these old coal-fired power plants? The utility companies, the folks who own the coal-fired power plants. They're like, oh, these are too expensive. We do not want to run these anymore. We could develop energy far more affordably. And in fact, this bill is going to force your energy rates to go up because the electric utilities want to move to cheaper sources of power like solar and others. So yeah, this is like, it's outrageous that that the legislature is interjecting themselves in between the utilities and the Public Service Commission, which their job is to regulate the utilities. So SB 349, the Coal Protection Act, aka the Power Bill Increase or the Climate Destruction Act, call right now. Tell your legislator, tell your senator. I don't think this is actually passed either yet, but it's likely to be moving quickly. It's got through committee for sure. Oppose SB 349. So make two calls, or you can actually just tell the same operator that you're opposed to these two bills. So those are good ones. Do it now. Let's make a difference. Let's get these legislators to know, get on the record and let them know that you are opposed to these bad ideas.
Did you all hear about NEMA?
I think probably did. I was gonna hold off on covering it until I saw their statement, if there was a statement, or have them come on and talk about it directly. But yeah, I don't know.
And that's Democrat against Democrat. So there's a lot going on in the state of Kentucky. I will say that.
Oh, is that really? Is this Kulkarni? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
All right. There's another NEMA that we talk to frequently on the show.
NEMA, when she was filing her paperwork, election paperwork or whatnot, it was a lady that was a registered Republican, allegedly, that signed off on it or whatever. And now Dennis Horlander used to be a state representative. NEMA beat him back in 2018. Then also in 2020, he lost by a bigger margin at that time. So they're trying to get her off the ballot.
I think
so there's a lawsuit because she didn't have her paperwork properly filed. Apparently, she didn't have.
I can give you some more information on that. You're supposed to have two people sign your paperwork, and they have to be of the same party as a person who is running for the office. And apparently, this one of the people, at the time she signed it, she was a Republican, but she changed her registration, and before the paperwork was filed, she had registered as a Democrat. So when the paperwork is received by the Kentucky Secretary of State, it has, in my opinion, it meets the requirements because two Democrats or two people of the same party signed the document. Even though the date that she signed it, at that time she was registered, or I don't know, male or female, the person was registered as a Republican. But I believe the Kentucky Secretary of State is going to say it's okay. That's my opinion.
It's pretty silly. I mean, she's a representative. She's been elected by her district to represent them. So it seems like the fact that you have to have two people sign that to say what, like that you can continue to run as a elected official, like you're in this seat. I don't know. I definitely understand signature requirements for folks who are seeking an office, who've never held office before, like some sense of, I can go out there and find some people who are going to support me and sign that I'm a legitimate candidate. But like this is a sitting representative, like that's outrageous. But I don't know. If people look for opportunities, people look for, for, I guess, I's not dotted, T's not crossed. You should probably be able to do that. So ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thanks for flagging that one. We'll put a link into the article in the show notes if folks want to look through the timelines of the Republican, now Democrat, who signed Nima Kulkarni's forms. All right. So I guess that's all we got for you tonight or today, depending when you're listening to this show. Thanks for tuning in. Kimberly, thanks for showing up. You wanna read us out?
I sure will. I I sure will. It's nothing like being on Kernels of Truth on a Wednesday night. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE, and we are proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to always educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Next week, we will be joined by a guest, a wonderful guest, I'm sure. And the production of episode 154 was by the phenomenal Annabelle. Big thanks to Nate Orshan, who wrote and performed our theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com.